Hey, good morning, YouTube family. Welcome to Escape from Crazytown. Yes, we are trying to escape Crazytown, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger by the moment, you guys. Oh man, what do we do, right? We got to laugh about it because if we don't, we're going to cry. So let's dive into this because we want to get away from crazy people. We want to figure out how to get our sanity back, and we want to know how in the world to find the truth. So, good morning, you guys. Good morning, Obi and John. Good to see you two hopping on right away. I appreciate that. Obi says, Narcissists want your trust so you don't listen to outside sources that know what they're up against and people that only want what's best for you. Absolutely true. You are on it today, Obi, as you usually are. So, you guys, the topic today is narcissists want your trust. This is one of the most important things that you do give to the narcissist. And, a friend of mine was telling me that she had a friend from Africa. I'm trying to remember, it was Uganda. I think it might have been Uganda. And she said that she was asking him, what is his perception of Americans? And I want to continue, not just expand that to, I want to expand that to Westerners, not just Americans. But his perception of Americans, he said, was that Americans are very gullible. Yeah, it's gullible. So when you're gullible, that means you give your trust away easily, right? You believe quickly. You can't imagine that someone could be lying to you or tricking you, or that they would be so evil as to steal your life savings, right? You can't imagine that someone would make up such a horrible story about something intimate, right? Intimately devastating, and just to gain your trust. But they do. They do. And so this guy, he wasn't trying to be mean or anything. He was just letting her know that, Americans seem to fall for everything, right? They want to believe that whoever's talking to them is telling them the truth. You guys, the very first thing that I want to warn you about is that just because you talk to somebody and they seem normal and they smile at you and they're looking at you in your, right in your eyes, doesn't mean they're telling you the truth. Just because they use an earnest tone, just because they hang out with you, just because they're spending any time with you, or even if you met them at a trusted friend's party or house, or any kind of gathering, even if they go to your church or synagogue, or what's the other thing, sorry guys, I'm not really good about this, temple, or doesn't mean you can trust them. There are psychopaths all around us. One of the books I read years ago is called Without Conscience. And the subtitle to that is The World of the Psychopaths Around Us, right? And I forget, it was a little bit more than that, but I listed in my website. Sorry, I wasn't planning on mentioning this book today, so I'm not ready to tell you the author and all that, but I'll give you that link in the description after this. But this doctor, he did his research in a prison, and he interviewed hundreds of prisoners. And what he discovered was that psychopaths, because a lot of the prisoners are psychopathic, they have this narcissist complex where they feel like they're special and that they can get away with things, or the world should treat them differently and with privilege because they're special. They're amazed when they get caught, right? They're surprised that when people don't fall for their tricks. Anyway, he ends up interviewing a lot of these people, these inmates, and he discovers, and I'm not saying all inmates are not to be trusted. There are definitely people who end up in prison who should not be there. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. But in his day, when he was doing this research, he found that most of the inmates were psychopaths. And what that meant is that they saw themselves as the most, they're very egocentric, and they saw themselves as the most important thing or person in the world. And it doesn't matter what anybody else feels or goes through, or is how they're traumatized by their crimes. They feel that they're justified in living their life to take what they want and take advantage of others. And this is what I mean when what the Ugandan was saying to my friend about Americans being gullible, because he knows that there are people out there that target Americans because we're so gullible. We're willing to trust. And narcissists and psychopaths rely on that, right? They want our trust. Because once they get our trust, they can get in farther than we even imagine, right? You would think like, oh, they wouldn't take advantage of my finances when they know I'm on welfare, right? You're thinking, oh, they wouldn't hurt my children because my children are little and they're innocent and they're sweet. Oh, they wouldn't take advantage of my elderly parents because they're on a fixed income and they're barely able to make ends meet, and you're thinking, oh, surely this person wouldn't take advantage. But yes, they do. They absolutely do, because they don't see people as equivalent to them. They don't see that. Anyway, so what the psychologist who did his studies in the prison discovered is that psychopaths can speak straight to you, weave incredible stories, actually very common, normal sounding stories, and gain your trust. He said even he was fooled a few times, and his students that he would send in to also interview these inmates would be fooled as well. It wasn't until, what they would do is they would go in and interview these inmates without knowing what their crimes were, right? So first of all, that's a big red flag for us. And that happens to us when we meet somebody. They have a completely clean slate with us. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their background is. We don't know who they've cheated, who they've hurt, what their crimes have been, if they've even been in jail. We don't know this, right? So we just assume, for some stupid reason, that they're trustworthy unless they prove otherwise, which means we're just another victim waiting, right? Waiting to be victimized. You guys, this is what I want to talk about today, because I hear so often people use some of the words, or I don't know how to put it. They assume that someone's trustworthy. And I want to go through why they make these assumptions. One of the reasons is because, like I said earlier, is they met them. They ran into them at a bar, at a restaurant, at a friend's party, at a picnic, at church, at synagogue, at temple, wherever, at work, right? They ran into them around town, or even at a political office, right? Maybe they're even working in an attorney's office. They're working in the dentist office. They work, they're in your doctor's office. They're your doctor, right? So you're thinking, I can trust this person because I have interacted with them. That means nothing, you guys, okay? That means nothing. Just because you interact with somebody doesn't mean you can automatically trust them. And even if you've interacted with them 3, 4, or 5 times, doesn't mean you can trust them. It just means, okay, they're sociable. They can carry on a bit of a conversation, right? You might even have some interests in common, or at least they pretend like they have an interest in common with you, right? You don't know that you're being taken yet. You can have a very surfacey, very shallow conversation and relationship with these people. Do not take it any further than that. Do not believe you have anything more than that. I keep running into people who will say that they trust a particular person because their friend works for them, or that person is in a profession that they trust. That person's a teacher, that person's a professor, that person's a doctor, that person's, this restaurant owner. They just assume that because that person seemingly is a responsible contributor to society, then that person must be trustworthy. I'm sorry, you guys, it is not true. It is not true. There are psychopaths among us everywhere, in every niche and in every profession that's out there. Um, why do you think you've heard so many stories about what happens with priests, right? And young boys. That has been covered up so much, that has been, suppressed. It's come out, and yet they don't get sentenced. They don't get charged. What the heck, right? What's going on? There is something subversive going on right in front of our eyes with people that we think are in trustworthy positions. And just because they're in that position, we just assume they must be trustworthy. Heck, you guys, Ted Bundy worked on worked in a suicide hotline office. Come on. You would think, oh, I'm calling, the suicide line, or my friend called the suicide line, or whoever and they talk to this person, or you're even in this, you work there, and you just assume that other people who are working there with you must be good people, right? You could be working in, yeah, you could be working in a charity, nonprofit, whatever organization, and you just assume everybody who works there must be on the up and up. You guys, a lot of these people are not on the up and up. A lot of these people are just like you and me, but also a lot of them are crazy. All right. So you have to not walk into a relationship, even a cordial one, automatically assuming this person is trustworthy. If you do that, you will be victimized. You will be taken advantage of. And not only that, you might be the one perpetuating the cover for the narcissist, for the psychopath. You might be the one telling other people, oh, yeah, I met so and so. They work at my dentist office. Or, and not that you're trying to say that means you should trust them, but when you kind of give them an endorsement by saying you know them or you know of them, and you're saying that they work in an area that's respectable. So that already is adding to their resume, okay? So even if you're not trying to endorse somebody, you're endorsing them by saying, "Oh yeah, I know that person." And then that's it. People automatically just assume if you know that person, that means you've let that person into your life to some extent. So that person must be of some character or have character or is trustworthy. So be very careful when you do that. I've seen that happen over and over again. Let me see. Oh, that's a good idea. Obi says, I have a phone app that holds police records. And when I meet new people, I get an idea of who they are. That's smart. I probably should do the same. I'm on it let me see. Yeah, yeah. You know, Obi says that these losers are predictable. And yes, they are. But we also have to be less gullible, right? Even though they're predictable, we fool ourselves, we deceive ourselves into thinking that people are harmless, into thinking that, oh, this person's young, so they're harmless, or this person's elderly, so they're harmless. We just assume a certain age bracket to be harmless, and that is not true, you guys. I wanted to tell you also that the reason that narcissists gain your trust is not just because you're gullible and not just because they're endorsed by people or a profession that you trust, but they gain your trust through manipulation as well. If they get to know you, you start to have a relationship with them, a friendship with them, right? You've gone off and you played tennis with them, or you've gone running with them, or some art show with them. You've done things with them. Then they start to manipulate. They start to make demands on you. They start to require you to believe them when they're lying to you, because you're not being a good friend, they say, if you don't trust them, right? Or if you're involved with them romantically, then you're not loving them if you're not trusting them, right? They'll use guilt to get your trust. And then, I think this happens, this not think, but I know this happens with parents as well who abuse their kids. They get the kids to believe like, I wouldn't hurt you. Why would you think this is meant to hurt you? And they end up hurting their kids psychologically, even though the kids don't recognize it. They do things even physically that kids don't realize the parents should not be doing, but they convince the kids, or it could be an uncle or, some relative. This is why I want to bring it up. It's our gullibility that gets us trusting, even though the action is the opposite, right? Even though there's something in our gut that says, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel good, and I feel like I'm in danger. Your gut's telling you this. They're not even possibly danger. You could even deceive yourself and think, well, I'm not in danger because I know this person, right? This person wouldn't hurt me because they look like they're nice people, right? Looks can be deceiving. So someone dressed nice, they look clean, their hair is done, they're shaven, whatever, right? They smell good. And you just assume, well, then they must be a good person. Well, you guys, there are serial killers out there that dress very nice. There are people who will rob you blind and steal your house from you that look and smell and act nice. They have manners, right? Had a young man come into my house, I guess I want to say probably a year ago, to sell us some addition to, something to upgrade our home. And he's young, he seems ambitious, he seems, he's all dressed nice, and I want to help him, but here's the deal. The things that he was saying were so egocentric. I don't think, it's amazing to me, he didn't even recognize that he was talking about himself and what he wanted to do and how much he saw his getting into this industry. And by the way, you guys, it's solar, so be careful with that. um, People are selling you solar stuff, and it's almost like they're selling you a used car. You get into this debt with them, and $20,000-$30,000 in debt with them, and they tell you, oh, you can get this discount from the government and blah blah blah. They take off 6,000, maybe up to $8,000 off of it, right, and make you think you're getting this big old discount, like they're giving you this discount. No, they're not giving you a discount. They are selling you a loan. That's what they're hoping for. Once you buy this loan from them, and then they say it's offset by what you'd be paying the energy company anyway. So essentially, you're still paying an electric bill, and you've got this loan on your home now, this lien, and they walk out, and the system that they sell you does not cost $20,000, by the way. But this is the loan you're going to end up taking, is a $20,000 loan. I've had several friends who did this, sadly. And then this person, I don't know who it is. If there's some people out there who work in this industry or have worked in this industry, maybe you can let us know how much these guys are really making. I'm guessing they're making a good several thousand, maybe 3 to 5 thousand. I don't know. I'm just a wild guess here. Every time they sell this stuff, and then of course their boss, the manager, whoever else, the installer, other people get a cut of it. But the person just selling it to you, it's like automatically they get a few $1,000s just for selling it to you. And anyway, this young man, he really kind of a boy. He's like 18 or something like that, and he's in this industry already. He thinks he's the smooth salesperson, and he knows we want to get something like that, so he plays it up. But then he acts like, oh, and let me call oh my gosh, they pull the same thing, by the way, as used car dealers or even just regular car dealers. And not to say that all called car dealers are bad people, you guys, okay? But oh, let me talk to my manager and see if I can give you this extra special discount. And then they text or call their manager, and their manager gets on the phone and says, oh yes, if you think this couple is worth it, and you think this couple blah blah blah, then yeah, let's go ahead and give them this discount. It's all designed to pull you in. But the thing that really was disgusting to me is how this kid kept talking about his future. And in a way where he believes he's going to be a millionaire, pretty much selling this stuff to all of us, right? It doesn't matter to him that we're paying top dollar. It doesn't matter to him that he's using all these manipulations and lies to get us to believe we're getting some incredible discount. It doesn't matter because he's racking up a commission every time he sells one of these. And I want to tell you, he didn't sell it to us. He was kind of disappointed because he thought he was so charming. And how can I not have sold it to them? I was so charming. Well, people who are narcissistic don't recognize, that we can see through them. They just don't see it because they're so egocentric. They think they're the bomb. They think they're amazing. They think that they're incredible actors. And that's what's kind of funny, actually, about actors, because they think that they can lie. They think that just because they act on a show or they can do some acting on theater, on a stage or anything like that, that they automatically must be good liars as well. They just assume that people are so stupid we cannot see through their lies or through their act. And the funny thing is, well, not funny, ironic, I suppose, is that they're kind of right because most people are gullible. Most people will give them the benefit of the doubt and suppress their own gut instinct that something is off with this person. This person is kind of making some outlandish claims that don't sound quite right. But because they look nice or because they're energetic, because they're bubbly, because they're charismatic, they must not be a bad person, right? We just assume that it's a dark, secluded, introverted, antisocial person that makes a narcissist or makes a psychopath. And that's not true, especially nowadays. And our eyes are opening more and more to the fact that people can behave so differently in different environments, right? It's so, if you've watched any crime shows of serial killers, you will see that these people they're out of their minds, right? They're absolutely crazy. And yet somehow they function in, for a short time, maybe not for a long period of time, but they can have spurts of normalcy where they actually interact like a normal person, just enough to get you into their car, or just enough to come to their house, or just enough to invite them into your home, right? They interact in a way that seems very normal. And because we're gullible, because we want to believe the best of people, they know this. They know they can gain our trust. Oh my gosh. So I know somebody who, I guess a while ago now, was scammed because she got a phone call from somebody. I think I may have shared this with you. This is a ploy, by the way. So my friend was called, and she has a grandson, right? A teenage grandson. And so a guy calls her number. And I think they get these numbers, they know who is elderly. And so they just assume that person is a grandparent. So they'll, if it's a man that answers, they'll say like, "Hey, grandpa." If it's a woman, they'll say, "Hey, grandma," right? And because most grandparents are called grandma or grandpa, so they'll use the general one, right? The general term. They may not say pop pop, they may not say mimi, they may not say may, whatever it is, mima, they may not say the terms that are uncommon. They'll use the common ones. And a lot of times they'll hook their prey. Now, if the person was smart and they know they didn't go by grandma, but this person did, if she didn't have such a common, I don't know what you call that, grandma Noma, right? Then she wouldn't have been so easily affected. What if she went by Mima, right? And then this person calls and says, "Hey, grandma." She's like, "What the heck? All my grandkids call me Mima. Why would someone call me grandma?" So she would already have been alerted. But the person says, "Hey, grandma." And she just assumed, since she only has one grandson, that this is her one grandson. So she says his name. "Oh, hi, Mark," or whatever, his name was. And now the caller knows the grandson's name and pretends to be Mark. So he continues on the conversation and tells her how he was in this accident and that he needs her financial help because he was traveling for something or went out, to a different state with a friend and it got into an accident. And now the state is, he destroyed some state property, like he hit a lamppost or fire, whatever, hydrant or a curb, and now the state's requiring him to pay for it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she ends up writing a check. Oh, not even a check. It was a cashier's check. That's the other thing. Like, why would she believe that her grandson would not accept a personal check from her? That's ridiculous. So, you guys, Americans are gullible. They want so badly to believe that, and sadly, the elderly, they want so badly to believe that their grandchildren need them. And so if they need them, the grandparent's going to step up and be there for their grandkids. The psychopaths know this. There are jerks out there. And I call them psychopaths because they know they're stealing a large sum of money from somebody who cannot afford it. And they don't care. They don't care. That's the thing with psychopaths. Once they gain your trust, you assume that they wouldn't risk your trust, that you assume that they wouldn't take advantage of you, especially if you're meek and mild and have very little. You assume that they wouldn't hurt the most vulnerable people in your family, but they do. They don't care. They have no conscience, and they don't have any understanding that this other person has feelings. That's why this doctor calls them without conscience. We are too gullible to believe and trust simply because we talk to somebody. Oh my gosh, you guys, the dating services out there, you just assume like, oh, this person looks good. They have pictures of them surrounded by friends. And so since they have friends, they must be trustworthy. Well, here's the deal. Anybody can show up at a party and take selfies with a bunch of strangers or near strangers, just acquaintances, right? And look like they have a circle of friends. So be very careful out there. Do not be so gullible. Do not be so willing to trust. I mean, you can have conversations with people and niceties and pleasant coffee, dates with people and stuff like that, even dinner. You can get to know somebody, but do not automatically give them your trust. Well, you guys, yeah, this is true. True, Obi. That's exactly true too. Narcissists have certain games that they play with you, right? The guilt trips. And then when you act like, nah, I'm not taking the bait on that. I don't feel guilty at all. They're indignant. They're like shocked that how dare you not fall for this? How dare you not believe or, how dare you not fold like everybody else? And in a way, they're kind of amused by you, right? They're kind of amused that you're somewhat resistant to their charm or to their stories, to their lies, right? Um, but they also, the funniest thing to me is when they act indignant. Like, how can you not trust me? I run a law office. How do you not trust me? I'm a doctor. I'm just like, because you're just a person. You're just a person just like the rest of us. And narcissists like to hold themselves above everybody else, whether it's their profession or how much money they make or how good looking they are or any, and they may not even be any of these things, and yet they still hold themselves above everybody else. They may be totally homeless, so in debt that within one paycheck everything would be taken away from them, and yet they believe that they're smarter than everybody else. This is the audacity of narcissists. They don't understand that there are any boundaries. And when you resist their attacks or their manipulations, they'll go in harder. So be prepared for that, okay? It may even get to the point where they start insulting you, and they think like somehow insulting you will get you to bend towards them, which is crazy, right? That's why they do not make sense, you guys. What they do does not make sense. But sadly, some people actually respond to threats. Some people actually respond to ridiculous guilt trips, and they give in. And it's not to say, well, maybe it is to say they're kind of weak, right? They're too weak to stand up against a narcissist. And narcissists love that. They love weak people. They love people who will roll over easily and submit to them. So don't be that for the narcissist. Well, you guys, narcissists, once they convince you to trust them, they will actually use you to convince other people, because this is a manipulation of theirs. This is a tactic. They will get somebody who is trustworthy to trust them. That's their main target. It doesn't matter to them to get somebody that other people, don't respect or don't worship, I guess, or, don't idolize. They want somebody that's in the public eye. They want somebody who has high status. They want somebody who makes a lot of money to trust them. Once they get that person to trust them, then that person starts to endorse them. That person then becomes their character witness. You guys, do not be a character witness for someone you don't know that well. Okay? Do not be a character witness for somebody who has a position that you may admire, but you don't really know this person. You don't know what their character is. What annoys me, and I hate to come down on Christians about this, but some Christians will say things like, oh yes, this person's a Christian, as if just being a Christian means you can trust them, or because they go to their church means they're this devout Christian. No, they just go to your church because it's out of tradition. They're doing it out of trying to convince those around them and the community that they're trustworthy. They're not doing it because they actually have a relationship with Christ. Or even they can speak the speak, right? And I can talk about Christians because I am one, but I'm sure this happens in other organizations too, other religious organizations, and even social organizations, right? People who work in the same office will act as if, well, yeah, they work in the office right next to me. So therefore, and they get raises and they get promotions. So therefore, they must be trustworthy. You don't know what they do in their private time. You don't know they're on the computer doing all kinds of horrible criminal stuff. You don't know how they treat their kids at home. You don't know what they're doing in their private time. So be very careful of endorsing people just because you see them in one aspect of their life. Trying to think of, been getting these endorsements of people that are pushing a very, very bad narrative right now that's destructive. And and then I hear, oh no, yeah, just not necessarily trust them, but believe, even though they're pushing something very awful, that they're a good person. And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know that, I'll pray for them. And maybe they're doing it because they're deceived, right? They're doing it because they're deceived. That's hopefully the case. But that certainly doesn't mean I should trust this person or go to this person for whatever professional need I might have. So be careful of that. Be careful of endorsements. I've known so many people who thought they were endorsing a good person, and it turned out they were not. Well, I'll mention one right now, Romney, for instance. Known many, many people who endorsed that. Oh my gosh. But if you paid attention to anything that he had done politically, you'd realize, like, this guy is a scam artist. And oh my gosh, well, I can talk about the other side as well, you guys. So these people will always have some fan club that endorses them because they know them. Oh, we're neighbors. Oh, we're friends. Oh, we have mutual friends. Oh, we invest in the same business. Whatever it is, they are going to have people who will endorse them and vouch for their character. And then you watch them, you watch what they actually do, and you're like, what the heck? How can you keep endorsing this person? So now you got to watch the person who's endorsing, right? Now you got to question, who's this person who's endorsing this scam artist, this criminal? So be careful of that. We are under one big crazy, uh, weird and bizarre endorsement right now, where people will vouch for someone because they're deceived. And that's why I think a lot of times right now we feel like we're in Crazytown. When you try to tell people or wake them up to the criminal activities of somebody, and those around you are like, oh no, but I know that person. They're a good guy, or she's a good woman, or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, what can you do? You can't change their mind. They have to become a victim themselves at some point before they will understand. And even when they see this person victimizing other people, they'll excuse it. They'll make up excuses for the narcissist because they can't believe that someone they know and trust would purposely hurt somebody or victimize somebody, right? It takes a lot to wake somebody up from believing a bad person is a bad person, or from believing that a bad person is a good person, because they actually cannot believe that they would surround their circle, make their circle up of bad people. They I don't know. It takes humility, okay? It comes right back to that again. It takes humility to be able to say, hold on, maybe my judgment was off. Maybe my judgment was wrong. So I'm going to reevaluate this. Yep, that's what it takes. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hopping on. I really do appreciate your comments, especially you, Obi. I don't know if this is, hold on, I don't have this set. Sometimes I don't see other comments until later, but apparently today it is not that case. So, okay, I will take it full on. Oh my gosh. Oh, really? Wow. Yep. Yep. That's good. So, you guys, narcissists, they not only want your trust, they demand your trust. They require it. And if you're not willing to prove to them that you trust them, they might threaten to cut you off. So that's another manipulation of a narcissist. They require you to prove your trust. So, giving them your PIN access to your debit card, giving them a key to your house, uh, giving them alone time with your children, crap like that. Do not fall for it. You do not have to do all these things in order to show that you trust somebody. In fact, you would be smarter to not trust them, right? It's okay for you to be protective and for them to earn your trust and to prove over a long period of time. But here's the sad thing. Narcissists sometimes are very patient people. Like, they will play along and they are manipulating you. And if they're having a great time with you because you're an energetic, happy, fun person to be around, to them that's a plus, right? So they like being around you and they are going to keep being around you until you get to the point where you're like, oh, I can trust them because I've been around them so many times. Be careful of that as well. Just be a little more perceptive. I like the idea of being an undercover agent, right? There was a show, I believe, that tried to teach or gauge whether somebody would be a good undercover agent. And and part of the testing was to see if they were aware of their surroundings, if they were paying attention to certain conversations happening around them, if they were paying attention to people's behavior and body language. So the more aware you become, the less gullible you become. And also, another big tip on how not to be gullible is to actually believe people can be that bad, right? People can be that evil. So don't just automatically assume. And I know people like this who just can't imagine that there are politicians that would actually try to destroy their town. They can't believe it. They think that what this politician is doing must be okay, especially if you're of that party, right? You just automatically, that's another thing, you guys, you automatically may give somebody trust because they belong to a similar group that you belong to. Don't just trust based on that. Leslie, good to see you. Just tuned in. Oh, oh yes, persimmons. Yeah, I love persimmons. It is persimmon time of the year. So you guys, Leslie, I think you're going to have to rewind and go back, but I'm just about at the end of my happy crappy hour today. I want to give you guys a chance to add anything or ask anything if you want. I just want you guys to recognize that it's not a bad thing to be humble, to have humility, that is, with yourself. Like, not pride yourself on being a good judge of character. Oh my gosh, it's so hilarious to me when I hear people tell me they're such a good judge of character, and I'm like, okay, I think most people believe that. And yet there's so many people that get victimized. So I'm thinking there are a lot of people out there that are actually not good judges of character, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been taken advantage of. There are times that I've been taken advantage of. So I know that there are limits to my ability to judge someone's character. It is okay and actually really good to have some humility and admit that to yourself that, well, maybe my judgment on this person isn't totally accurate. Maybe I need to step back and watch for a while, right? Some people are like, oh, I can judge a person within 30 seconds. I'm like, you are one of the narcissist's dreams because a narcissist can fool you for at least 30 seconds, right? A lot of them can. So be careful of that. You may be able to say, oh, somebody's trying to pull the wool over my eyes. This person is not really telling me the full truth. This person is trying to sell me something that maybe I don't want or don't need. This person isn't really answering my questions, right? You want to be aware and pay attention to these things. But even when you're aware and paying attention to some of these things, a really skilled narcissist can get through some of that, especially if they can connect with you emotionally. They know that once they connect with you emotionally, then you're going to put down your guard. You're not going to be as suspicious. You're not going to be as skeptical. You may not even do any checks on them or, to check out their story or anything. And they rely on that. They hope that's what you will do. You'll be gullible. You'll trust them because you love them, because you like them, because you're entranced with them, by them. They are hoping for that. So you guys, I think that is all I wanted to say. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah. There were other issues I wanted to talk about, how narcissists also gain your trust. Well, let me go into that. They also gain your trust by gossiping, okay? They will gossip with you about somebody else. And I don't know about you, but I noticed that narcissists love to gossip. They love to talk about other people. And the thing with gossipy people is that they think they can trust each other. They think that, oh, if this other person is bashing someone, then they trust me not to tell on them, right? So I can trust them not to tell on me. But gossipy people are not to be trusted, period. You guys, period. Because if they will gossip to you, they will also gossip about you. They are not to be trusted. But for some reason, they make that emotional connection with each other because they're sharing a secret, right? They're sharing dirt on somebody else. So they think they share a secret, and now they build somewhat of a trust with each other, which is completely unwarranted, actually, right? It's in fact, it's extremely damaging to both of them because they will go off and bash each other. This is what narcissists do. So if you are involved or around people who like to talk about other people, get out of there. Just get out. There's no need to build a relationship with them. There's no need to build a friendship with them. You can be cordial with them, and definitely do not share anything with them about yourself because it will be discussed. It will be, conflated, and it will be exaggerated to the point where they can make it interesting, and then people have a story to tell about you. Yeah. Oh, good, good, Leslie. Jihad, good to see you. It's been a while. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. So, you guys, it is one of those things where our trust is one of the most valuable things that we give to a narcissist because it gives them an endorsement as well for others to start trusting them as well. So you do yourself a favor, but you do the world a favor when you don't endorse a narcissist. When you don't just automatically say, this person's a good person because they go to the same dentist I go to. That doesn't make them a good person, by the way, just because you know that about them. Just because they can sit in a waiting room with you and have a conversation about a magazine article. That doesn't make them automatically a good person. It just makes them able to carry a conversation for a short while. So, you guys, narcissists and psychopaths can behave very normally. They are a part of society. And by the way, the number of narcissists seems to be growing in society now. It's not the minority anymore who are narcissist or narcissistic. It seems like more and more people are becoming crazy out there and very self-centered. They might seem kind of nice sometimes, but watch them, watch their lifestyle. See if they walk the talk or if they're just a talker, okay? Be aware of that. Be careful of that. And you got to allow your gut to do its work too, right? You got to be able to listen to your gut because I think there are several people who probably saw Ted Bundy and thought, I don't know, something's off with this guy. And I think several people they interviewed did say that. And yet he worked in a politician's office. He worked at a suicide hotline office. Was he a paramedic? I cannot even remember. I don't think he was, but I think he worked in positions of trust. And people thought that if he's able to interact with people in a professional environment, then he must be a trustworthy person. How scary is that? So, anyways, you guys, I hope that this has helped you. I hope you will take the time and check where your gullibility weaknesses are, right? Where are you gullible? And it's okay to love somebody but not trust them. Okay? You can love somebody and then go, well, okay, you can love your little kid, right? But are you going to leave them in a room full of candy and expect them not to take a single one of them? Probably not a good idea, right? Are you going to leave them in a room with their iPad and their phone and the TV when you told them that they're not allowed to watch that for the next half hour? They're being disciplined. You may not want to do that, right? You can love somebody but not trust them. You need to put up some safeguards. You need to put up some boundaries. You need to make sure that You don't put yourself in a position to get victimized. Well, you guys, I know some people are jumping in right now. Oh, interesting. Just reading some of the comments, you guys. Oh, lover of the truth, good to see you here. I might give you guys a couple more minutes to wrap up some conversation. Hey, if you guys want to have conversations with each other, jump in at the beginning of the show. I hate to cut you off, but I do have to get going. It's good to see you guys all here. I hope you'll go back and watch this video, but also I'm going to do a shortened version of this and hit the highlights for those who don't have the time to watch a full Happy Crappy Hour. And also, if you would watch a commercial once in a while, like the video, make a comment on the video, that would really help me. Even share the video if you think it'll help somebody, especially the highlights one, the recap, the Happy Crappy recaps are excellent for sharing. All right, you guys, I hope that this has helped you. Don't give away your trust so easily. It is not something of little value. It's actually something of great value. And the narcissist will take advantage of that. So do not just give away your trust easily. And you may not even understand that you're giving it away easily. So humble yourself, to the point where you realize that you are not as good a judge of character as you might think you are. Okay? That's not an insult to you. That's actually a protective advice for you. Because if you're thinking, well, maybe I'm misjudging this person, that actually protects you, because now you're going to be a little bit more aware and skeptical, and you're going to pay a little closer attention to this person. All right? Well, you guys, have a great week. I hope that you have, let me see, next week is Christmas week. So have a really good time. I hope I'll be able to do a Happy Crappy Hour. I think I will on Thursday next week. So I hope you join me for that. Maybe it'll help prepare us for the upcoming holidays and time with family, which sometimes is kind of hard. And also a loneliness, there are times, there are a lot of people out there that during this time is a very lonely time for them. So come and join us for Happy Crappy Hour. We'll be here, and I will see you next week.